Okay, and actually, really, as long as I'm still teaching, we're going to be pretty mellow. And today's class, I'll focus on a couple of things in the hip joints. One of them is just mobility in the ball and socket. And when we lack mobility there, we tend to have the body take over in other ways that we don't necessarily want. So I think you'll find it quite pleasant when we can mobilize in there. And then going along with that, when we stand, I'll stand up. You can see the bump. Many of us stand with the tops of the thigh bones. If this is the ball of the ball and socket, and this is the socket, the ball ends up forward of where it should be, and ideally it's right in the middle. So we'll do some other things that help set it right in the middle, and I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah? Well, I hope so. So we'll start, have a strap available just on the side, and then you can come lie down on your back. And you don't need all of this stuff, that's just for me. If you want a blanket under the head, that's fine. And if you're okay to have the legs all the way long, do that, but if that's really uncomfortable, just keep the knees bent. And we'll check it out. Yeah. So a few things we'll notice first is just your overall sense of how your body makes contact with the floor and the mat under you. And you'll notice some parts feel more weighted and other parts feel lighter, like they don't touch the floor at all. And for most of us, the backs of the thighs won't touch, but see if you can get a sense of how close the backs of the thighs are to the floor. And then scan up a little higher and notice the back of the pelvis. And see if you feel pretty even between right and left, or if one side is heavier or tilted differently. Sometimes one side is lower, like closer to the foot, or the other closer to the head. Yeah, and then kind of going along with that will be the curvature of your lumbar, the low back. And see if you can get a sense of that curve and notice where the high point or the midpoint of the curve is. And some of us, it'll be kind of higher up, more towards the ribs, and some of us, it'll be a little lower. And then notice anything else that is significant. Maybe the shoulders or one arm feels different than the other. You'd like to just gently roll your head from side to side. You might notice you turn more to one side or the other. And then let's let the head rest. And if your legs are long, go ahead and bend up the knees here so the feet are just flat on the floor. And this first little movement is going to be very, very tiny, and sometimes the brain doesn't like these tiny little movements, but just to see if you can go with it. So think about the tip of your right knee, and see if you can draw an imaginary circle on the ceiling with the tip of your knee. And this circle is tiny. It's like the size of a quarter. And as the right knee is drawing the circle, you'll likely feel a weight shift going on in your right foot, sole of the foot. And see if you can also tune in to what's happening in the ball and socket joint in the right hip. And can you make the circle as round as possible and as smooth as possible? You might feel some little hiccups or speed bumps along the way. Sometimes instead of a smooth glide, it feels more like sandpaper or something a little not as smooth. Let's go the other direction with the circle. And as we're making these circles, we don't want the pelvis to be moving with the leg bone. And then let's let that settle on the right side and just take a pause, take a breath. And just from doing that, you might notice a subtle difference on the right and on the left. We're going to stick with the right side for a few more movements here. So let's actually rest your hands on either the low belly or the front of the pelvis so that you can just sense if it's moving. And we want to keep the pelvis still. As the right knee starts to go to the right, and you'll roll towards the outer edge of the foot, but only go so far as you go without the pelvis rocking with the leg. And then we'll return to center. So this is also pretty small movement, fairly slow. Take that a few times, just allowing the right knee to go out to the side and back to center. Yeah. And you might notice for some of us, there's sort of a grippy sensation right in the inner groin. See if you can ask that to relax, and that might mean the movement is smaller, and it's okay if it is.
So when you're going back up, is that what you're talking about?
Some people feel it more on the way down. Some people feel the grip more on the way up. And some people feel it the whole time. So if you are feeling that, try going smaller, like maybe an inch back and forth, and see if that makes it go away. And then maybe the next time you go an inch and a half, and etc. And we won't be here for too much longer, but okay. And then let's pause here the next time the knee comes back to center, and we'll walk the right foot a bit wider, just let it take a slight step to the right. And now we'll let the same leg drop in towards the midline, and then back up to the center. Yeah, so do that a few times. Still keeping the pelvis still, keeping the left leg still. And now for this one, some people experience almost like a little bit of a pinchy feeling when they drop in. And if that's happening to you, do less so that it doesn't do that. Just only go as far as you can where it feels easy without the little pinch happening. So now we'll go both directions. We'll drop and keep your foot in this kind of wide position and then drop out. Do that a few more rounds. And we're still keeping the pelvis still. That's about to change. And then let's pause next time we come back to center, and we'll add one more little piece to the puzzle here. So as the right knee goes out to the right, allow the pelvis to come with, but don't let the left leg come with. So the left leg kind of stays put. However, the left hip will lift off the floor a little bit. Yeah. And then we'll come back to center. The hip comes down, back to middle. Let's do just that a few times. So the right knee goes out to the side. The pelvis comes with, the left half of the pelvis lifts, and then we return back to center. Yeah, so it's kind of like a one-sided windshield wiper. And then the next time we come back to center, let's pause. And we'll go the other direction with the same concept. So let the right knee drop in towards the midline, stay there, and then press a little through the inner edge of the foot and let the right half of the pelvis lift. It's not going to go too much. And then the hip comes down, we return back to center. Let's do that a few more times. So the knee drops in, the right pelvis lifts, the left leg stays more or less in its position. And back to center. Do that one a few times. And for me, this one's a little more awkward than the other direction. Yeah. And then you guessed it, we'll go both ways. So next time we pass through middle, let's go over to the right. Let the left hip lift a little bit. And then we come back to the center. As the leg drops over to the right, let the right hip lift a little bit. Yeah, so take that a few more times. And the left leg, it's not rigid, but it's not doing the side to side as the right leg is. And that might be kind of, again, another tricky one for the brain to figure out. But if you think about it, keeping or kind of putting a restraint on the thigh bone, and the socket is moving around the ball on the left side. And on the right side, it's more the ball moving around in the socket. Yeah, great. And then let's take a little break, come back to center. And if you're okay to stretch the legs long, do that on both sides. And just take a little notice of the two sides together, right and left, and see if anything feels different there. Right, so we'll do that whole progression on the left side, starting with the knees bent on the floor. And we'll draw our tiny little circle of the left knee on the ceiling. And just like side one, we want to make it small, so this is a quarter size circle, and as smooth as can be, as round as can be. And you'll feel some weight shift going on the sole of the foot. And also notice what you can sense in the hip joint itself. Yeah. That's it. And then go the other direction. And I'm already feeling a little grippy on this side. I wasn't on the first side, but you might notice a difference. Yeah. And then let's pause there, and keeping the pelvis still for the first set of movements. Allow the left knee to go to the left any amount that the pelvis doesn't come with, and then back to center. So we're rolling towards the outer edge of the foot and then back to middle. And same thing here if you're experiencing a tight grip right around the inner groin. Go take a few with a smaller movement and see if you can minimize that grippiness. And you might notice a significant difference between right and left, but some of you might feel pretty much the same. I had an injury on the right side many years ago, and it's never quite gotten the same as the left side. Yeah. And then let's take one last one here. And the next time you return to center, we'll scooch the left foot a little wider, and now we'll drop in and back to center. And again here, the pelvis is still for this first part, the right leg is still, and don't go to the point of pinch if you get that. Some people do, some people don't. Yeah, and notice if your body prefers to go to the external rotation or the internal. Some of us have an easier time with one over the other. Yeah. And then let's go both directions. So we drop in and we drop out. Still without the pelvis coming with. We'll get there. Now the reason I'm having us start with these smaller movements, a lot of times that's where the stickiness occurs, and when we go straight into the larger movements, we bypass this part. So we're kind of going right into the middle here and gradually moving our way out. Yeah. Sometimes I'll compare it to like combing long hair. If you get a knot, instead of just kind of skipping over the knot, you go below it where it's smooth and easy, and then just gradually go up a little more, a little more. Right, let's pause here next time you come back to the center. And then we'll add in the movement of the pelvis. So let's take the left knee to the left and let the pelvis come with, let the right hip lift, but the right leg stays more or less in position. And then we return to center. So take that a few more times. See if you can sense where it's the thigh bone moving in the pelvis and then when it's them moving together. Great. And then let's take last one here, and then we'll change to the other, to the rolling in. And now this time when the left knee rolls in towards the center, press a little into the inner foot and let the left hip lift a bit. And then back to center. So do that one a few times. The leg drops in, the inner foot presses, the hip lifts a bit. Yeah, and likely you'll have less range of motion this direction than you did the other way. Yeah, and then we'll combine this with the first part. So next time it comes up, let it go out to the side and the right hip lift. And then we come back to center, let the knee drop in, and then it's the left hip that lifts. Yeah. So when the knee drops left, the right hip lifts. And then when the knee drops right, it's the left hip that lifts. Great. Now from here, next time you come back to center, we'll pause and take the right foot a little wider so both feet are about max distance apart. And then we'll do both together. So just pick a direction, let the knees drop one way, and then whatever side is on top, that hip lifts. And then we come back through the center, and then it's the other side that lifts. Yeah. So now here we are doing more of the windshield wiper that you're probably used to, but it might feel a little different than it typically does. And then I'll add in just a few more things to try here. Let's say we're all on different sides here. Next time you drop to the left, let's stay there. And press a little more through the inner foot and try to reach the right knee away from you towards the foot end of the mat. Yeah. And then let that go, come back to center. We drop to the other side, press a little more to the inner edge of the foot and let the left knee reach away from you. Great, and come back to center and do that a few times. Now, sometimes when we do this with that little extra press, the musculature in the low back tends to kind of over-engage. Just if that's happening for you, see if you can tone it down a little bit and just let the low back come along for the ride without helping out too much. Yeah, great. All right, let's come back to center here. We'll take a little recheck. So put the legs long on the floor and just notice here any difference between right and left side. Any difference overall in the way the backs of the thighs meet the floor and everything else. Yeah. And now we'll stay here, and then well, let me explain. In a second, we'll be kind of sliding the right leg around. Sometimes the leg gets stuck on the mat, and if that's you, I'm just going to roll the mat, kind of fold it over so the leg is on the floor. If you need to do that, you can. So let's pay attention first to the right leg, and you'll let the leg rotate in and out. And if you were to look at the foot would be kind of waving hello, but we want the movement to start in the hip joint. So like in and out, and let it be kind of lazy, kind of floppy, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. And then we'll slow it down. And then from here, next time the leg rotates out, stay there. We'll keep the rotation, bend the knee, slide the foot along the floor, so it's kind of like a lazy tree pose, and then bring the sole of the foot to the floor, the knee to the ceiling. Roll a little more towards the inner edge of the foot, and then re-lengthen the leg and come back to where we started. So we go external rotation, bend, slide, knee to the ceiling, foot to the floor, roll in slightly, and then re-lengthen. Yeah, so that's the pattern. And I'm going to ask you to make it a little lazier and a little less precise, which is something I don't see too often, but just see if you can be kind of floppy with it. If you can imagine a little kid who's just kind of bored, laying on the floor, doing this movement, do it like that. Yeah. And it's totally fine if the pelvis is kind of wobbling around, if the rest of the torso, like don't try to be still like you did in the other one. Yeah. Now, hopefully, I should have warned Chris here. We're going to do something else. Let's make the movement now go a little slower. And the next time the knee bends with the foot on the floor, pause there. You'll pick up the leg slightly, just a little bit off the floor, like an inch or two, and then just let it drop. Yep, and re-lengthen. And then go again. So when the knee points up, lift and kerplop. And what we're not doing is stamping the foot hard down. You just want to kind of let it fall. Yeah. And some of you are dropping with the leg turned out. We want to have the knee pointing up to the ceiling and the sole of the foot lands on the floor, not the side of the foot. Yeah. And why the heck are we doing this? If you picture in your mind's eye the ball and socket joint, every time you do a little kerplop, the ball goes it drops down a little bit more into the socket. So it might seem like a strange thing to do, but there's a reason for it. Yeah. And then let's do last round here. Also, it's a good way to annoy your neighbors if they're in the upstairs apartment. So the next time the leg goes long, let's just take a little rest. And it might be subtle, it might not be there, but many of us will have the right leg now a little lower than the left, a little closer to the floor. Anybody? Oh, it's a yoga miracle. All right, so let's do the left side. If you need to rearrange your mat a little bit, go ahead and do that. And then first, before we do the big circle, just do the floppy in and out, a little rotation, just like your foot's waving hello. Yeah. And notice if this side has more or less movement available. That's it. And then we'll go a little slower. And then when the leg rotates out, we'll stay. We're not going to do the kerplop quite yet. Bend the knee, slide the foot up, sole of the foot to the floor, knee to the ceiling, and then roll in slightly as you come down. So we'll do that a few times. And see if you can make it quicker, lazier, floppier, looser. Yeah. Yeah, and if you're dying to kerplop, you can add that in already. All right, so when you're ready to add in that little drop, go ahead and do. And just a reminder, you're not trying to either place the foot carefully, nor are you trying to stamp the foot hard into the floor. You just kind of let it fall. It's also kind of fun. It looks like if, you can imagine if this were a class full of children, this is just what kids do. But here we are, grown-ups, resetting our femur bones. Yeah, just take a couple more rounds. All right, and then I think enough is enough. I'll apologize to Chris later. He's downstairs. Yeah, and just check it out. Notice backs of the thighs, back of pelvis. Some of you might experience a change in the lumbar curve as well. All right, so from here, let's now take your strap and we'll put the strap over the right foot and see if you can situate it so the strap is kind of right at the front of your heel. Left leg can be bent or straight, whatever's comfortable. And you can take any handhold you like. You can wrap the hands or not. Give yourself a second for Yogi's Choice hamstring stretch. Sometimes we first get up there and the hamstrings are so tight that that's all we can think about. So just take a Yogi's Choice. You can bend and straighten. You can move. You can be still. Take what you need. I'm not going to do the whole Supta Pada Mustasana sequence here, so if you're dying to do that, you can do it on your own. All right, and then let's pause here. And if you're feeling like so much stretch that it's pretty intense for you, back off a little bit. Let the leg come slightly away. A mild stretch is fine, but we don't want to be too stretched in this for this next one. Bend the right knee just a little bit. And as you re-lengthen the leg, think of pressing the heel into the strap, but also think of pressing the ball into the socket in the hip joint. And notice that might affect what's going on in your pelvis and in your lumbar spine. Yeah, let's go again. So slight little bend in the knee, and then you'll press the foot into the strap, press the ball into the socket. Yeah, so we're kind of plugging it in. And then do that one more time, little bend. And then press foot into the strap, ball into the socket. Stay plugged in, ball and socket. And let's take a small circle, kind of like those knee circles, but now it's the whole leg. And use the arms to steer. And this circle will be a little bigger than the other one, maybe like the size of a grapefruit or something. Still pretty small. Good, go the other direction. All right. And then let's pause. If you're able to lengthen the left leg, do. If that feels crummy, keep the knee bent, but just slide the foot a little further away from you. Let's put both pieces of the strap for a sec into the left hand. Bend the right knee slightly, and now take your right hand and stick the thumb right into the hip crease with the fingers kind of on the side of the thigh there. And then press the hand down away from you to make a little space on the right side of the body. And try to keep that as you re-lengthen the right leg. Yeah. Good. And then we'll do that again in a slightly different position. Bend the knee a little bit. Now take the right leg slightly to the left, just over the midline. It's not far. Keep the knee bent. Push the hand into the hip crease. And then slowly re-lengthen the leg again. Oh, yeah. Let's stay here. Can you press the inner edge of the foot as much as the outer edge? Good. All right. And then let's come back to center. Bend the knee, remove the strap, and put the right leg beside the left leg. And take a little compare contrast. Yeah. Did anybody's right thigh bone get lower after that one? Yes. Wow. Anybody's get longer? Wow. Okay, we better do the other side so you don't walk around in circles. So up comes the left leg. See if you can situate the strap at the heel. And then take a yogi's choice, just like a minute to do whatever you want. Class is half through and we haven't even gotten up yet. All right, let's pause here, and then if you're feeling a massive stretch, you're back off a little bit. Bend the left knee just barely, and then as you re-lengthen the leg, press the heel into the strap and the ball into the socket. Do that nice and slow, and notice what goes on in the pelvis and in the lumbar spine. And then we'll go again, little bend, and then press, foot into strap, ball into socket. And then let's go one more time. Great, stay here, stay plugged in, and then use your arms to draw that little circle. It's about a grapefruit size, and see if you can make the circle as smooth as can be, as round as can be. Mine is kind of egg-shaped on this side. Yeah, go the other way. Good. And then we'll pause here. Move both parts of the strap into the left hand. Take right hand. Take a little bend in the left knee and stick your thumb in the hip crease and press down. Keep that and then press the foot into the strap to re-lengthen the leg, keeping the thumb pulling the hip down. Yeah. And then let's go again, little bend. This time take the leg slightly over to the right. Push the hip crease down with your hand. Keep it there and re-lengthen, pressing the foot into the strap. Oh yeah, press the inner foot as much as the outer foot. That'll do it, huh? Yeah, the foot knows how to get out of stuff, but we know what to do. All right, friends, let's come back to the center. And then we'll release, coming out of the strap, put both legs long, just check it out. Yeah. Notice backs of the thighs, back of the pelvis, lumbar curve. And while we're down here, let's check out our head turns. So just let your head roll from side to side. And even though we were not working with the upper body really at all, you might notice a difference. Good. So the last thing before we come off the back, let the head rest. And in your legs, you'll press the backs of the heels into the floor and do kind of a quick point and flex with the feet. And it's not so much about the feet as it is about the whole body getting a little bit of a jiggle up and down. So you want the feet to catch so your whole body, there's a little reverb. And you can imagine that you're standing on like a mini trampoline and just a little bounce, 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 bounce. Yeah. And then just let that settle down. And take a breath. All right, friends. When you're ready, just bend up the knees. And just very gently roll over to one side. We're coming off the back here. Take your time when you've been down there for a while. Yes. And press on up, and you will turn around to hands and knees position. Yeah, feel free to put a blanket under there if you need. I'm just going to move some stuff out of the way. Hey. Now, as we start to move through our cat-cows, go ahead and just start doing that on your own. And in your mind's eye, picture the ball and socket joint. And notice how the pelvis is wrapping over the tops of the thigh bones. And see if you can have that movement be as smooth as can be. Just allow it to glide over and around. And then we'll continue this cat-cow, but we'll enhance it a little bit. Let's take the hands a smidge forward. And the next time you're in the cow pose with a little bit of an arch in the back, pause there, bend the elbows, and try to drag the mat toward you as you move the chest forward. And then press into the mat to round into cat and shift back slightly. So as we inhale, we pull the mat back, chest comes forward, we come up. And as we exhale, we'll push a little and come back. So it's cat-cow with a little circular action. And see if you can still notice what's going on in the hip joints. And let that smooth glide be kind of priority here. Great. All right, friends. Next time, we shift back a little. Stay there. Tuck your toes under, lift the knees off the floor. And remember when you had your thumbs in the hip crease? Pretend you got one on each side, and you're pulling back and up right at the hip crease. Keep that as you re-lengthen the legs. And then if you feel the need to pedal here or shift around, take a second for that. Awesome. And then let's widen your stance so the feet are about mat's width distance apart. Bend your knees, crawl the arms back. Let the weight press down into your heels. And then let's use the inhale to come up. Arms will lift overhead. As we exhale, set the arms down. Let's stay kind of wide in your position with a slight bend in the knees and pretend your pelvis is really, really heavy. And just let the pelvis kind of move around like you're moving through water. Any sort of movement is fine. Great. I know some of the floorboards are a little creaky in here. Good. They're not bad. At least they're, yeah, that's true. They're not bad. Yeah. Do you remember that? It was like squish, squish, squish. All right, let that one settle down. And let's reset your stance so the feet are just right underneath you. But let's be in the back of the mat here. And take your hands right at the top of the thighs, like kind of right at the hip creases. And as you stand here, let the pelvis press forward. And you might feel that it gets kind of firm, like hard right here. And then do the opposite. Let the pelvis shift back just a little bit. And see how that creates some more softness right at the top of the thighs. Yeah, that's where we want to be. So especially when we kind of lift up, this tends to happen. So let's be careful not to. Slight little bend in the knees. Release the arms. And as we inhale, re-lengthen the legs. Take the arms up without pressing the pelvis forward. And as we exhale, deepen the hip creases to come down. Forward fold. You can bend the knees if you need to. Take a half lift. Chest comes forward. Let's do that again. Come down. Little bend in the knees. Press into your feet. Come all the way up. Arms overhead. And then as we forward fold, deepen the hip creases. Maybe bend the knees. Come up halfway, chest moves forward. And then as we lower down, let's go into plank pose. Option to have the knees down on the floor or straight legs. It's up to you. We'll be here for a sec. Can you broaden the collarbones? Can you lift a little through the abdomen and think of the very tops of the thighs lifting slightly? Yes. Yes, exactly right. And then from here, friends, let's come all the way down to the belly. Take your time. You can put the knees first if you like. Scoot the legs back and down one at a time to create some space in front of the thighs. And then we'll bend up the right knee and hold on to the foot or to the ankle, just a little quad stretch here. So there's a tendency, especially if we have tight quads, for the leg to go into a little bit of external rotation. Think about rolling the inner thigh towards the ceiling and at the same time drawing the navel forward towards your chin. Good. And then let's release that to the other side. Bend the knee, find the foot or the ankle. And think about the inner thigh rolling up towards the ceiling, the navel lifting. Great. And then that's that. Put the leg down, stand the belly, and just let the pelvis take a little wobble from side to side a couple of times. Yeah. And then let's head back into downward facing dog. We'll add in a calf stretch once we get into position. Yeah, so from your down dog, let's narrow the distance between your feet. So the feet come closer together. And then bend both knees for a second. Try to press the mat forward with your hands, just so that the spine gets a little longer. And then keep the left knee bent and try to sink the right heel towards the floor. It may or may not get there. Yes. And then in slow motion, let your pelvis take a little right, left shift. Yeah. You might notice some people have a tighter outer calf, some people have a tighter inner calf. Some are lucky and have both. Let's change. Bend the right knee, sink the left heel downward. Oh, yeah. And then side to side. Nice. All right. So let's pause here. Separate your feet. Just come to the normal down dog. And then it's up to you if you want to bring the hands to the feet or the feet to the hands. We'll meet in forward fold. Bend the knees a little, press into your heels as we come up. See if you can do that without pressing the thighs and the pelvis forward. Yeah, and then arms come down. Oh, okay. So let's come to the front of the mat. If you like blocks for lunges, you can set those up. And we'll do a few things here. So from the front of the mat, your choice if you want feet about hips width distance or if you want to go wider, just whatever's comfortable. Let's bend the knees a little bit. Right at the hip crease, shift back as we come into, it's not really chair pose, it's kind of almost chair pose. Yeah, let's crisscross the arms to the center. Inhale, we come up. And then exhale, come back into the chair pose again. Now do that a few times. So inhale, we take it up. Exhale, we come down, hip creases steepen. Let's do one more time up. This next time we'll go down. Come into your halfway lift, chest comes forward. On the way down here, we'll step the right leg back into lunge, keeping the knee off the floor. And then a few things to think about here in the back leg. Picture your ball and socket joint. And can you press the ball up towards the ceiling? But at the same time, can you press the pelvis, which is the socket, down towards the floor? So they kind of press into each other. Yeah, keep that idea on the back leg. And then in your hands, don't move the hands, but try to pull them back as the chest moves forward to create a little length through the front of the spine. And then on the left leg, just gently push the heel a little more into the floor, and then that might wake up the left glutes a little bit. Yeah. Can we lighten up the hands? Can you move the chest forward again? On the back leg, the pelvis is dropping down, but the thigh bone is lifting up, and anybody can let go of the arms or not. Yeah. All right, let's put the hands back down. Lower the back knee down to the floor. And then it's up to you if you want to keep the toes tucked or flat. And if you need a blanket under the knee, you can have that. Now picture the right thigh bone as if it were kind of like a seesaw. And you're trying to take the top of the thigh bone back and drag the bottom of the thigh bone forward. So do that a few times and you'll feel like the left side wants to pull in as well. So it's kind of like you're trying to scissor in and then back it off. Do that a couple of times. Yeah. Later on, we'll do something else, and if the something else is no good, I'll have you repeat this again. Okay, so let's pause here. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back thigh. Move the blocks if you're on the blocks, and let's go plank to downward facing dog pose. Yeah. Good. And then from here, we'll come to the front of the mat, feet to the hands. Just one time, a half lift, chest comes forward. On the way down, we'll step the left leg back, repeating the same little section on the second side. Blocks if you need them. Now on the back leg, think of the ball and socket joint and press the ball up towards the ceiling, but then let the pelvis go down towards the floor so they press into each other. I didn't say this on the first side, but let's do it here. Pretend, or you could really use your thumb to kind of pull the right hip back like we did in Supta Padangusthasana. Without moving your hands, try to drag them back so the front of the spine lengthens. That's it. On the right leg, press a little more firmly into the heel. And then let's lighten up the hands if possible. Lengthen the spine again. Some of you will stay put, some of you will take the arms straight back. That's up to you. Good. All right. And then down come the arms. Down comes the back knee. You choose what you want to do with the back foot. And then our left thigh bone now is the seesaw. And we're trying to press the very top of the thigh bone back as we pull the knee end forward and back off, and do that a few times. And as that's happening, the right heel will be trying to pull back, kind of a little seesaw. Yeah. Good. All right. And then let's pause here. Tuck the back toes under, lift the back knee and thigh. And then let's just step the foot forward here to the front of the mat. Root down to rise up. Inhale, we grow tall. And then as we exhale, set the arms down. Good. Let's take little hula hoops here. Slight bend in the knees. And again, imagine that heavy, heavy pelvis stirring you around. Let's go other way. All right, so we'll take a warrior one variation, and I kind of want to use the strap. Well, we'll do the strap another day. It's kind of like it takes a lot of fooling. So we'll do it, we'll do it another time. Hands here right at the hips. Let's step the right leg back with the heel down on the floor. And then we'll use our hands instead. So take the right hand and just rest it kind of at the front of the thigh like we did in mountain pose earlier, and press the heel down into the floor, and think of the inner groin just drawing back slightly. Yeah, notice what you felt under your hand, and then don't do that, just kind of be there. And one more time, press the heel down, roll the inner thigh back. Yeah, lift up a little through the abdomen, slide the hand back up to the pelvis, and then as you bend the front knee, go a little bit, Now take the left thumb and hook it in the left hip crease and press down. Take the right hand kind of at the front of the left pelvis, and you'll move the hands away from each other, just creating some space. Yeah? Yeah. So Sarah, the left hand is on the left thigh, and the right hand is yeah. And even if you can't quite reach, it's just this idea of making space between the two hands. Yeah. Let's keep that idea. Let go. Take the arms up. Let the legs root you down, but the arms and the upper body lift you up. Glorious. Virabhadrasana 1. This used to be my least favorite yoga pose, but now I quite like it. And then to exit here, hinge forward. Take the arms back, spin the back heel up. And then just step yourself to the front of the mat. Inhale, we lift. Oops. Exhale, arms down. Yeah. All right, let's do this same thing, side 2. Left leg comes back with the heel down. Both legs are straight. First, put the left hand on the front of the thigh and notice what happens when you press the heel down and when you roll the inner groin back on the left side. Yeah, and then feel how it's different when you don't do that. Go again, heel presses down, inner thigh rolls back, slide the left hand up to the pelvis, bend the right knee a little bit, hook the right thumb at the top, fingers are on the side, and press down as you go a little deeper, and then take the left hand to the front of the right pelvis and try to pull the hands apart. Yeah, just to create some space. I know it's a very odd request, but I'm hoping you're feeling a little space. Let's keep that, let go. Take the arms up and let this lifting of the arms help elongate the trunk of the body. Keep the back heel pressing down, inner thigh rolling back. Yes. Gorgeous. Yogis, Virabhadrasana 1. Let's hinge forward a bit, take the arms back, lift the back heel, and then step forward. Inhale, we grow. And exhale, arms down. Just take a little walk, like on your mat. Go back and forth. Notice if there's any, just in the hip joints, if you notice anything, any more freedom than you normally have. Okay, I'm gonna do one more thing to that effect. So this is lizard on a block. Let me explain. It's lunge pose, but with the front leg wide, and then the block goes on the thigh, not on the knee itself, just a little above the knee. And then the other block, if you need it for your hands, you can have, or you could have the hands down. If you get here and it's like, that's not a great decision, you'll do the seesaw with the knee down. Yeah? All right, let's try it. So that we'll have the right leg back, left leg forward and wide. And then remember the block, it's not on the knee. That feels really bad if it's on the knee. So it's just above the knee on the thigh. Yep. Block for the other hands if you need the hands on the other block, it's okay. If not, just skip it. And now in your mind's eye, picture the right ball and socket joint. And this push of the block is pressing the ball deeper, further back in the socket. If tolerable, if pleasant, you can shift a little forward and back. If that's a red alert, don't do it. If you have the wooden hard blocks, in the studio we've got the soft ones, but the hard ones I think don't feel so good for this.
Should your knee be wigged out?
The left leg. Do your best to have the left knee and foot pointing forward, even if you have to step it a little wider, rather than letting it rotate. Good question. Yeah. And some of you will likely feel more sensation on the left leg than on the right, which is not unusual. All right, now, one more piece of the puzzle, if you choose to accept it. Left forearm on the left thigh bone. And if that's fine, and you want to take the right one up too, that's an option maybe. Yeah, do keep the leg on the block. See if you can lift the abdomen a little and spread the back ribs a little wider, the lower back ribs. So Wes, anybody getting a stretch in here? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's see if anything happened. Gently ease your way out. lift the thigh, go back to down dog, and see, whoa, I'll notice, look at your legs. Has anybody's right leg gone a little further back on the left?
Yes.
Is anybody's right heel a little closer to the floor than the left?
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Just from that. So let's do the other side. You can get in however you want to. That'll be right leg forward, left leg back. Yep. And remember, it's not right on the kneecap. It's above that. The other block could be for your hands, or skip it if you don't need another block. And then if I had thought about it, I could have had you get 3 blocks, but I didn't. So here we are. And again, if it's not going to work, you can do the seesaw, which is similar. Once you're here, if you'd like to shift a little forward back, you can. In your mind's eye, picture the ball going further back into the socket. Yeah. Sometimes we think our limitations in the forward folds or down dog, it's all hamstrings, and that's part of it, but part of it's the way the bones are situated. So resetting them here a little bit. All right, maybe a little side to side wiggle. Oh, yeah. Okay, now only if this is a good idea. Right forearm on the right thigh. Maybe that's enough. Maybe the left one comes up too. Oh, this side is different for me. Yeah, very different. Yeah. Yep, gently. See if you can lift the abdomen a little and widen through the lower back ribs. Oh, the lower back ribs that's where the psoas, one of the attachment points. Okay. And then I think we'll be done here. Let's come out. Check out your down dog again. Wow, though. Best down dog yet, I think. Yeah. All right, let's slowly come down into child's pose. And as you're transitioning, let the hip creases deepen as you shift back. And some of you might feel like child's pose is different too after that work we've been working on. Yeah. Very cool. So let's come up just to come down again. You'll come all the way down onto your back. And take your feet, knees bent, feet kind of wide. And we'll repeat the windshield wiper that we did before and just see if this is any different after some of that standing work we did. So the knees drop to one side, the pelvis comes with, back and forth. Yeah, you guys will lay down. I don't want to set up all this stuff for myself. Yeah. Let's see. Jocelyn and Arlene, take your feet wider. Pam too, so the feet are, yeah, great. Next time the knees drop right, press a little to the inner left foot. Let the left knee reach away from you, and let the left hip lift a little more. Yeah. And then the next time the knees drop left, right inner foot presses, right knee reaches, right hip lifts. Do that a few more times, and again, without letting the lower back take over. And just notice if there's any more ease in the movement than there was before, if it feels any different than it did before. Good. Let's do one more little psoas thing here. So come back to center. Make the feet not quite as wide. Take your right foot and let it come in between the left foot and the left buttock. The right knee will turn out and drop towards the floor. It may not get to the floor, and if you need a prop, you can put a block under it. Pick up the left leg and bring it in towards your chest. And you can hold on with one or both arms and let both feet relax in this position. Yeah, great. And then this is very subtle, this request. Take a breath in. And as you breathe out, let the back ribs move downward and imagine them getting wider on the mat. And that's very subtle, very gentle. Yeah? Do that a few more times on the exhales. The back ribs move down and wide. let's release the left leg, undo the right leg, pause in the center. Okay, and then side two, the left foot comes underneath, in between the right foot and the right buttock, knee towards the floor. You can pick up the right leg and bring it in towards you. And if you need to put a prop under the left thigh, of course, that's fine. Relax both feet in this position. And then very gently on the next few exhales, let the back ribs move down and wide. Amazing. When you're done, let's undo the legs. Keep the feet on the floor for a second and take the hands, the heel of the hand right at the hip crease on the thighs, and just press straight ahead, hands into the thighs, kind of like we did in Warrior One to create that space. You can do that a few times. I like to do it on the exhale, but really it's whatever works for you. Yeah, so just a nice little press. And then our next place will be Shavasana. So come on in, legs can go long on the floor, or not if you'd rather have the knees bent or use any props. And then, depending on how you're situated, just don't move. I mean, don't feel like you have to change anything. But if you're in the same position we started in, let's take that little check-in with the backs of the thighs. Maybe they feel like they're a little closer to the mat. The back of the pelvis. Perhaps the lumbar curve has changed. If there's anything else you were paying attention to, notice if that has changed at all. And then just all of the tracking, all of that, just let that go. Allow yourself to simply be right here, right now. Bring your attention back to your body. It might feel good to roll your head from side to side, maybe move the fingers and the toes. Maybe stretch your arms, just careful of anyone behind you. Eventually, let the knees bend. Roll yourself to one side. And then take whatever time you need to come up to sit. Any way you'd like to sit. Light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Namaste.